And you got it running?
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, we're good. All right, set. All right, my friends. Let's get started back up. I'm going to close this door. I do want to. Come on in, Alfredo. Right on time. Okay. We are very lucky to have Sean Johnson of Digital Intent with us today. As I said to you in the last couple of weeks, given the nature of your businesses, our businesses, I thought that Sean would be just a fantastic resource. He's a serial entrepreneur. He has started a handful of companies. He is now at an incredibly interesting and fast-growing and successful company called Digital Intent, which he is a partner and he's a founder with a couple of other folks, and they've been growing rapidly. He is a guy who knows a lot about acquisition, a lot about digital marketing, and a lot about user experience. And so we'll go as, I'm going to make this really short because I want to get to Sean. Obviously, he'll be talking with us. You can ask him questions along the way as they strike you. The other thing you should know about him is he's teaching a class. He's launching a class called Digital Marketing at Northwestern. So he's going to share some of those thoughts with us today. Without further ado, please help me welcome Sean Johnson.
Thank you, guys. So a couple quick caveats before we get started. One, I have a 4-week-old daughter, and I'm exhausted. So if I nod off, or if I make any mistakes, or if I say something stupid, we can just chalk it up to that. If I say something brilliant, it's because I'm brilliant. And then number 2, as he mentioned, I'm teaching this course in the spring, and I basically am trying to condense about 15 hours of material into 1 hour for you guys. So I'm not expecting you all to understand it all, and we're going to go very, very fast, and there's going to be a ton of ground to cover, but I'll share this presentation with Craig, and he can share it with you guys. There's links in there all over the place, basically, so that you can kind of continue to read at your leisure. But my goal with this is basically to equip you guys with a whole bunch of tools and tactics that you can use to optimize your funnel. And a lot of this stuff is stuff that people are not actually that familiar with. A lot, it's at least in Chicago. I run a meetup called the Growth Hacker Meetup here in town, and one of the more surprising things has just been a lot of people are really hungry for this kind of information, and in Chicago at least there isn't a whole lot of people that know this stuff. And so hopefully at the end of the hour you'll know everything that I know, which isn't much, but you know, I'm going to do the best I can. So let's get started. First of all, do you guys know what the funnel is? Show of hands. How many people know what the funnel is, and how many people don't? Okay, awesome. Then this will be valuable. We can keep going. Where this kind of started for me, I had a background in marketing. I was in New York at a company called GoalQuest that built marketing campaigns for universities, and we built a white label social network called UPeers, and this was after Friendster, pre-Facebook, but it was on campus, and the idea was you get accepted to a couple schools, and you're nervous, and you make friends at one, you're going to be more likely to go to that one. That was kind of our theory, and it worked out really well, and the company got bought and all that kind of thing, and we had done a lot of this stuff sort of implicitly, but we didn't really think about it. We thought of ourselves kind of more as designers, programmers, that kind of thing, and when I started doing product development for other companies, we kind of had the, again, the UI and the development side of the things, and we sort of implicitly assumed that because they were the business stakeholder that they understood how to get customers. And that was almost never the case. And it was really surprising to us, but it also was a problem. And so we ended up kind of expanding what we do to try to solve that for people. And just basically because we got tired of seeing our clients not succeed. It made us sad. And we didn't want that to happen, so we wanted to decrease the likelihood of that happening. And so what we tell kind of people when we're talking to them in the sales window is that 9 out of 10 startups fail, and our goal is to make it where 7 out of 10 of ours fail. So if we can do that, that's actually amazing. So that's what we're trying to do. But the fundamental flaw is that everybody thinks about it as it's really, really hard to find programmers, or it's really, really hard to build my product, and that's not true. It might be hard, but it's nowhere near as hard as it is to acquire customers. And a lot of people just sort of ignore that. They go heads down, they build, they launch something, they say, now what? Let's build more features, and then they're never able to figure out that customer acquisition loop. So this is the funnel. This is what we're going to be talking about today, and it's basically this is taken from Dave McClure, but it's basically the 5 sort of stages, I guess, of a customer interaction with you. It starts at the top with acquisition. Someone comes to your site. Activation is they take some sort of an action. They register with you. Retention is they come back. They have a happy experience. Revenue is they give you money, which is what we all want. And then referral is they are really happy and they start telling each other about you. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Your goal with all of this is going to be to optimize each stage of this funnel. A lot of companies think a lot about acquisition up at the top and revenue at the bottom, and it's the middle of it's kind of a black box to them. They have really no idea what's going on there or how to manipulate it. And that's really to their detriment because there's often a lot of low-hanging fruit there. And if you're familiar with sort of the economics of the whole thing, if you can go from, for example, if you can go from 10% of the people that hit your homepage activate to 15%, that represents potentially a considerable amount of money for you. You can potentially double your revenue by doing that, and it's relatively easy to do. And so we are going to talk about acquisition. There's going to be a lot of stuff we're going to talk about there, but we're also going to talk about each of the other steps of the funnel. It's kind of what I was saying before. It's helpful to think about it in terms of compound interest. So by manipulating one step of the funnel, you are actually able to take advantage of growth throughout the rest of the funnel. It's unlikely that you're going to do something that has a major win, where you make some tweak to your product and everything doubles all of a sudden. But what's more likely to happen is you're going to do a whole bunch of things, a lot of which fail, but let's say for every 10 experiments that you run, 9 of them fail, and 1 gets you 5% growth. That's the most likely scenario. But if you do that enough times, 5% here, 5% here, 5% here, if you can get 5% movement in one of your buckets of your funnel each week, in a year you're a completely different company than you are when you started. And so that's kind of the upside to focusing on this stuff. Your first 1,000 users. So a lot of people try to focus on growth and on optimizing their funnel before they actually have product market fit, and that's unwise. Your first 1,000 users, it's really about hustle, and it's really about learning, because you don't necessarily know if you're actually onto something yet. You can pour a bunch of money and waste a lot of money filling the top of your funnel, and they all leave, or 1 or 2 of them trickle in. You don't necessarily know why. And you're really just kind of winging it, and you're wasting time, and you're wasting money. And so for your first 1,000 users, and that's just a rough number, the emphasis should be on learning. And it's going to be a lot of stuff that isn't scalable. It's going to be a lot of stuff where your customer acquisition cost is probably higher than lifetime value, and that's okay. Because what you're really trying to figure out is, does the core of our product actually provide meaningful value to people, and do they actually... Would they be sad if we went away? That's what you're trying to get to. The goal of your product is to not do a dozen things. You want to do 1 or 2 things really, really well. And that's a mistake a lot of companies make. They think that the answer is more features. The answer is almost never more features. It's usually, it does one thing better than everybody else in kind of a differentiated way. And it solves a big problem for an existing market. So you're trying to find basically a business. You're familiar with all the lean stuff. Basically, your business plan is a bunch of guesses. You have a guess that a particular type of customer has a particular problem, and that is a big problem for them. It's not kind of, it's like a hair on fire. I want to give you money if you can solve this for me problem. And that your solution will solve that, and that you can acquire them at scale. And those are all guesses. But one of your fundamental guesses that you want to try to get right is that you have a large pre-existing market. You don't want to find yourself building. I mean, you can find yourself building an amazing product for a very, very tiny market, and you can do fine. That's kind of a lifestyle business. But if you're sort of looking to change the world, so to speak, you want to make sure that you're identifying a large market. like I said, you don't need more features. So once your product is up, you don't want to spend more time building out a bunch of new stuff. You want to figure out if the core of your experience is really doing what it should be doing, or is maximizing customer satisfaction the way that it should. So what you're going to find yourself doing, if you're smart, is spending 80% of your time focusing on that core experience and making it better and making it better and making it better, so that over time, as new customers come in, they fall more in love with your product. New features just are, it's just, I see it over and over again, and it's one of the biggest mistakes. It's just, you come to us with a 50-page spec, and we're at the point in our organization now where we say, okay, that's great. We're going to end up not doing 90% of this. Our goal is to try to figure out what's the one or two things that we can do that you're actually going to be able to do well. And that's really, really hard for people to understand. And even if you've done it for a while, or you've been in this world for a while, it's still tough to remind yourself that you need to do that. So vigilance is very, very important. Saying no more than saying yes is super important. So out of the gates, if you're not doing things at scale, what are you trying to do? How do you get your first users? You're going to find when you put something up, a lot of people think that they build their product, they go heads down, they're going to have this big launch on TechCrunch, and then everybody's going to bang down their door, and they're going to be millionaires, and that's not what actually happens. Usually what happens is they put their product up, and they hear crickets, and nobody really cares. Even if they do get written up on TechCrunch or something like that, they actually have a name for it, the TechCrunch bump. You get a whole bunch of traffic to your site. Very few people register. 2 days later, you're right back down to where you were, and you're like, now what? And that was your whole marketing plan. So there is no such thing as the big launch in our minds. What you do is you start small. You start with friends and family. You start with anybody that you know. You go up to them one at a time. You do whatever you can to get them to try the service out and to give you feedback. Ideally, they fit your target market. You can still get value even if it's your grandmother and she doesn't fit it at all. From a user testing perspective, there's nothing else. You can say, does this make sense? Does this benefit? You understand what we do by looking at our homepage. Is it easy to sign up? All of those different sorts of things. But you want to reach them one at a time. Noah Kagan runs this thing called AppSumo. He's got millions of users. When people ask him how you start out, he says one at a time. I mean, nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear that you do these big, huge initiatives in the beginning, and that's just usually not the case. And even if it was the case, it can be to your detriment. There was a site called Color. It was a mobile app that came out a couple of years ago. They had this big launch. They raised $40 million, but the product was terrible, and they never really recovered from that. So making a big splash in the beginning, if your product isn't great, can actually hurt you and ruin you. So even if you could do it, you don't necessarily want to. One of the most common ways to out of the gates is to create a landing page and start to drive targeted traffic to it. You can use a site like Unbounce or even just a WordPress blog, and you don't really worry about the structure of the page a ton. You can worry a little bit about the imagery. What you're really working on is the core positioning statement. So your headline. Your support points, your 2 to 3 sort of key benefits. Do those make sense? Are those what resonate with people? You can also test your call to action. And what you're really looking for here is you're trying to test for interest, basically. So you could have this. Some people have a button that goes to nothing, or it goes to a form and it says, hey, we're going to launch soon. Give us your email address. We'll let you know when we're ready. That's learning for them. They're trying to find out what sorts of positioning statements and what sorts of benefit statements actually resonate with people the most. And so when you're starting out with your product, one of the things you want to do is you want to brainstorm the different angles that you can look at it from. So if you think about it like a diamond or something like that, you have different facets to your product. You could address it from a solution perspective. You could address it from a pain perspective. Find out which of those sorts of things resonate with people the most. And then you can start driving targeted traffic there using AdWords or some other tool where you can test again those keywords and those positioning statements. You can see where click-through is coming from. You spend a couple, $100, try to drive 50 clicks there and just see kind of what's working, and then tweak that. You want to start laying the groundwork for organic from the very beginning. Again, this is not going to be scalable for you, but this you're actually going to be doing forever. You want to identify people in your space that would potentially like what you were doing, would potentially write about what you're doing, would potentially refer people to what you're doing, would potentially link to you. You want to start that groundwork now, even before you have a product. Maybe you show them screens, maybe you show them a demo, but you want them to, you basically want them to become advocates for you. And you can start that from day one, even without a product. Some tricks that people have done. This example is from Ford, but you can create YouTube videos talking to specific people. So if you identified some influential folks in your space that you wanted to reach out to, you could just have it be, I'd love to talk to you for 10 minutes, and create a custom YouTube video and put that out there for them. I know a guy that did that and actually got job interviews. So he wanted to get a job in advertising, and he created specific videos targeting principals at ad agencies. And because we all have ego problems now, because the internet's made us all narcissists, and so we Google ourselves on a fairly regular basis. And it's a clever way to kind of get in front of it. Again, it doesn't scale, but that's okay. If you have the budget for it, you can run display ads that are targeted, so on sites that are relevant to your potential customer. A site called Crazy Egg did this. They spent, I think, $10K, and they got 20,000 emails before they launched their product. That was really good. And they admit, actually, they made a whole bunch of mistakes with that. They didn't really follow up with people once they registered. They didn't get them excited. But even so, when they put the site up, they got 500 customers the first week. But what you want to do is, once you collect that email, ideally you reach out to those people. Thanks for registering. I'd love to hop on the phone and talk to you for 10 minutes to find out why you registered, or what problem you think that we're potentially solving, or what we should be doing, and all that kind of thing. Again, not scalable, but you're trying to learn at this point. Posting that on Craigslist. So for customer, a lot of people say, how do I do customer development, or how do I talk to people? You can post an ad on Craigslist for market research and pay them $10, but as a criteria, they have to sign up and kick the tires of the service for you. A couple of things happen there is, one, you get a couple, ideally people are responding because they're potentially interested. You're going to get some folks that are doing it just because of money, but that's okay. But two, for $10, you get 45 minutes potentially with somebody, and you can get a lot of really useful feedback that way. Use Twitter search to find people kind of in your target audience. So you can use hashtags is a great way to do this. I hate hashtags because they're ugly, but a lot of people use them, and they're sort of self-selecting by doing that. And so find who those people are, and then tweet at them directly, and try to see if they would be interested in talking to you. See if they'd be interested in getting on your pre-invite list. This is again something that you can kind of do forever. A lot of our clients set goals of, they have an intern, and they say, I want you to get 10 or 20 new people from Twitter and from forum posts every single day. It's not glamorous work, but it can be a really great way to reach folks. One thing that you can do here too, once you find these people, if you don't want to have your Twitter feed being just a bunch of ad replies of people with the same message, hey, I'd love to talk to you. There's a tool called Reportive that you can install in Gmail that basically lets you, it pulls up information about someone based on their email address, but you can reverse engineer it. So for example, if you knew that I worked at Digital Intent, and you knew our company's domain name, and you found me on Twitter and you thought I'd be someone that'd be worth talking to, you can open up your email and you can type in different variations of a potential email address, and just do Sean@digintent.com and sjohnson@digintent.com or Sean.johnson@digintent.com, and then when you get it right, my face shows up on the right, and my social profiles show up on the right, and now you've got my email address. We use that to get email addresses for CEOs. Otherwise you can't get to.
What did you say the name of that tool was?
Rapportive, so it's R-A-P-P-O-R-T, like rapport, I-V-E. And it only works in Gmail, but it's kind of a, I don't know, it's a cool trick.
That's great.
Do the same thing with forums. A lot of people ignore forums because they're old, they've been around for 15 years and therefore they're lame and not worth going after, and that's not true. I mean, especially, forums are insanely popular. The software is 15 years old, the sites are all ugly as hell. It doesn't matter. People use those things all the time, and people have a passion for those things. And there's forums for literally any niche you could possibly think of. So join them, participate in conversations, reach out to people, ask them if you could talk to them, if they'd be interested in learning, and giving you feedback about your service. And then ask people, as you're getting all these people in, and you're getting these 1,000 users, and they're kicking the tires of your service, you wanna follow up with them to see what they think about it. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Net Promoter Score. That's one way to do it. A guy named Sean Ellis has this is his money question that he uses when he's trying to hone in on whether or not he's found product market fit, which is, how would you feel if you could no longer use X service? And if you get 40% of those people that say, I'd be very, very disappointed, it's likely that you're onto something. But you want to be asking these people and following up and saying, hey, what do you like about our service? What sucks? What can we do better? How likely would you be to tell your friends? Those kinds of things. All right, so you got 1,000 users, and they're all giving you really good feedback, and you've iterated on your product to the point where you're feeling relatively good about it. You got 40% of those people saying, I'd be really sad if it went away. Now we can start talking about acquisition. The main thing to keep in mind here is you want to make sure that your cost to acquire a customer is less than the lifetime value of that customer. That can sometimes be hard to estimate when you're doing, like a B2C app that's an asset play and there's no revenue model. We're going to figure it out later and get 1 billion users and get acquired. It can be tough to sort of estimate that, but especially if you're like software as a service or you're a recurring revenue model, there's some people have different thresholds. A common one is you want your lifetime value to be at least 3 times customer acquisition cost. But you just want to pay attention to that stuff because if it costs you more money, if a particular channel or strategy you're using is costing you more money than you're going to end up making from that transaction, doing that at scale is obviously a terrible idea. So, and a lot of people ignore that. Free is generally better than paid. Paid drives up customer acquisition cost, reduces profit. Doesn't mean don't ever do it, and we're going to talk about some strategies for if you are going to do it, how to do it well, but you definitely want to err on the side of free. You want that to be kind of the area that you focus on. As you're trying to identify channels, you want to look at ones that have high volume, low conversion, and low cost. That's a good, you're never going to find the perfect one, but you want to try to find the one that kind of has the right mix. And another important thing is to make sure that you measure all the way down. So a lot of companies will measure the effectiveness of a channel based on like homepage to email conversion, for example. How many people hit our homepage that give us their email address and take that next step? But ideally, you want to measure it all the way down to revenue, because a particular channel might, for example, you might be getting a bunch of cheapskates that are interested in free service but don't necessarily want to give you money. Whereas other channels might have a large percentage of people that are not as tight with their wallets. So try to focus on it all the way down. SEO in 90 seconds. So again, you're not going to know how to do SEO after this, but that's okay. We're going to try to hit the high points. The gist of SEO now, there used to be a lot of little tricks and hacks that people would use. They would stuff keywords in the bottom of a page and make it the same color as the background of the site. They would buy links. They would have all these cheap directories. They would post things on these content farm sites, and there are all kinds of tricks that people were using to sort of game search results, and they used to work. Google's gotten really, really good about removing a lot of those loopholes. In the last couple of years, they had the Panda update and the Penguin update, and all these SEOs going, oh no, what are we going to do? How dare they take away my hacks to send people to the less relevant stuff? Google cares about when you type in something in the search result, giving you the absolute best possible result for that. So what that means is that most of the games don't work anymore, and what really matters is providing relevant results and great content for people in a way that doesn't annoy them. So in a way that doesn't annoy them, make sure your site is crawlable, make sure that the Google can find all your content, make sure you have good information architecture, make sure the URL isn't mywebsite.com/ a bunch of gobbledygook characters, have it be human readable. Make sure your site loads quickly. Google takes loading time into consideration. There's a tool called Google Page Speed that you can pull up your website on. You can see how fast it loads. You definitely want to be under 2 seconds. And what that means is you want to maybe remove some things that you maybe would have otherwise kept on there. Fancy web fonts, which I love, can slow down load time, for example. So you kind of want to weigh cost-benefit, a lot of that stuff. Eliminate duplicate content. So sites that, like for your blog, for example, if you're using a blog as part of your marketing, WordPress has duplicate content all over the place. So they have these category archives and tag-based archives and author-based archives and date-based archives, and all that stuff is showing the same content over and over again. Google hates that, so you want to try to figure out how to make sure that the majority of your content lives on one page and one page only. Do keyword research. You want to target high volume, low competition, low cost phrases. I should add on there that convert. So a way to do this, Google has a lot of free tools for AdWords because they want you to spend money on AdWords, where you can do keyword research. And what you can do with that is you can find keywords that they'll show you the number of monthly searches, they'll show you the relative competition for ranking for that search term. What you want to try to do is target long tail search. Long tail means, I don't know, I'm not here, but long tail, are you familiar with the long tail? Who is not familiar with the long tail? Awesome, okay. If I'm saying something that you guys all know already, just tell me and then we'll skip it. So, long tail basically is, as it relates to search at least, there is a percentage of search terms that are like football or Justin Bieber or whatever, and those take up about 30% of search terms or search volume. The long tail is all the other stuff and that's actually represents 70% of search. And something like at any given time, I think it was like 15% of all searches Google's never seen before, which is amazing to me. The reason why I'm going to target the long tail is one, it converts at a higher rate. So the more specific someone is with their query, the more likely it is that they know what they're looking for, which means the more likely it is that they're going to convert. So if someone is looking at fish tanks versus gold algae fish tanks, the gold algae person probably knows what they're looking for a little bit more, whereas the other person might be more in an information gathering mode. Another reason is that it's cheaper. So it's cheaper and easier to rank for that because there's less competition. And a third is that Google is slowly kind of taking over the head terms. So a lot of times what you'll see now when you type in something is you'll see Google's shopping results or Google's image results, or sometimes they'll have like a summary of a person or a company on the right-hand side that sort of looks like a Wikipedia-ish sort of thing. They're not going to do that at the long tail just because there's too much volume there. There's not enough people in the world to create custom search result pages for all that stuff. So a bunch of reasons why you want to target long tail words. 3 to 4 keyword, like 3 to 4 word length is kind of the sweet spot from a conversion perspective. The biggest thing, create consistent, compelling, evergreen content that targets those long tail keywords. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but content is going to be your kind of best weapon from an SEO perspective. Good content that people want to click through on, that people want to link to, etc. Link internally to other relevant content pages. So the way that search engines work, or the way that they basically crawl the web. So they start with sort of a seed list of sites, and then they basically follow all of the links that are on these pages, and that's sort of how they get to the whole internet. It's sort of like Kevin Bacon on steroids. But they're not going to find your pages if they're not linked to. So you want to have kind of make good use of cross-linking. Whenever you create a new post, link to 2 or 3 other posts that are relevant within the context of your site. Optimize headlines and meta descriptions for click-through. So Google doesn't really pay that much attention to a lot of the meta keyword and all that stuff anymore. But what they do pay attention to are definitely the title of your page, the little thing that shows up in the browser, that title, the actual headline of your article, and then the meta description. They don't use the meta description for determining relevance, but they show it in the search results. And so what a lot of people are doing now, they're worrying less about stuffing a bunch of keywords in the description, and they're worrying about making it convert. And so they're using more copywriting tactics to try to get you to, hey, read more about this, click here. Social sites also use the meta description. So if you share something on Facebook, share a URL on Facebook, it pulls in by default the title and the meta description for that page. And so that's another reason why you want that, because you want to maximize click-through there. So that's huge. You're going to spend a ton of time working on your headlines. Google now lets you pull in thumbnails of either videos or pictures into search results. So they have an authorship tool where basically you can say, hey, I wrote this, and I have a Google Plus profile, and I'm going to show my little fat head there. Click-through rate's higher if your picture is on there. Click-through rate is also higher for video results if your video has a little thumbnail on it. So you can use something called, basically it's an XML schema that lets you show a thumbnail for a video result. Find out who's linking to your competitors. So other than having content on your site, the other big piece of search is links, and getting links from high-quality, authoritative sites. So you could go out, and when I was saying one of the tactics that people used to do is just get a bunch of spammy, low-quality links, and they thought that volume was what mattered. It used to be what mattered, but that's increasingly not the case. If you get a link from CNN.com, that's worth 100,000 links from little spammy blog sites. So you want to try to focus on getting quality links from sites that have a high page rank. Are you guys familiar with PageRank? PageRank is basically a scale of 1 to 10 of Google's estimation of your authority on the internet. So CNN would be an 8, and Cheap Viagra and FreeMovies.com would be a 1. So you want to get in CNN. But you want to find out who your competitors are who's linking to your competitors. There's a site called Open Site Explorer that lets you do keyword research on any URL that you want, and they basically show you all the links that are coming in. And what you want to try to find are the ones that have a high page rank, that are ideally in your space that you think you could realistically get. Because what happens in a lot of cases is, if someone wrote about them, they might write about you too. And so you want to kind of try to reach out to them. And once you've done that, then you start building links. And there's a bunch of ways to do that. A real popular one these days is guest posts. You basically write a blog or an article for another site, and then you get a byline that links back to you. Doing product reviews of your site. There's a lot of directories that aren't as spammy, that are authoritative. But you're going to be link building for the rest of your lives. It never ends. So that's SEO. Any questions about that? Yeah.
How early in life of a venture do you start focusing on your SEO?
You can start in the beginning, and we're going to get into that on the next slide, primarily through content marketing. You can start doing stuff like directory submissions and things like that. So if you're a startup, and you can submit your site to Crunchbase or AngelList, or there's lots of directories of new startups that are out there that will give you a direct link. You can start doing that right away, even though you don't have any content. And you can start doing a lot of the content stuff that we're going to talk about in the next slide. And you'll see why in just a second. But yeah, you should start that from day one. You want to start writing and doing all that stuff from day one.
So Google now personalizes your searches based on what they know about you and your location. How do you navigate through that?
That's a tough question. It's going to be difficult for you to know what each individual person's personalized results are going to be. There are certain things that you can infer, like local. They're going to be more likely to show local results that are relevant. So if you type in web design, for example, it's likely that you're going to see Chicago web design firms if they're doing a good job. But I wouldn't worry about that too much, because at the end of the day, there aren't really any great ways to that I'm aware of to optimize specifically for personalized results, because each person's going to be searching for totally different things, and there isn't a whole lot of information out there about what Google kind of takes into consideration. There are things like if you typed in a service in a particular product space, and there were 3 or 4 of them, and Google knows that you use one of them, like you click on that result 3 or 4 times, they're probably going to show that one first. Stuff like that. If posts that you clicked on in the past, they're more likely to show. But they are more likely to show you results from people that are in your Google Plus network. So that's an argument for why you should potentially use Google Plus, people in your circles and all that kind of thing. But that's the extent of my knowledge. Content marketing in 90 seconds. That was way longer than 90 seconds. Okay, content marketing is by far, I think, I'm a believer. I wasn't, I am now. It's the easiest way, it's the most effective, kind of foolproof way to not get on Google's bad side. It's the most effective way to build credibility in your space. It's the most effective way to get inbound links. It's the most effective way to get a lot of social pull, because if you write great content, people are going to link to you. Everybody should be doing content marketing. You write about your problem space, not your product. So that's kind of what I was saying. Like, you don't necessarily have to have the particulars of your product figured out yet. You can know that I'm trying to solve some problem for people in personal finance. So Mint, for example, they wrote a blog post before the site was up, and it was all about managing your credit rating and budgeting and all those sorts of things. You focus on evergreen content. I said that earlier, but evergreen content is stuff that's going to be relevant 2 years from now, as relevant as it is now. So it's less current events. You can get a quick boost, a viral boost if you want, if you're good at it, in the short term by kind of hijacking the news and trying to tailoring it to what you do. Like Tom Brady just wins the Super Bowl, and it's like what Tom Brady knows about pay-per-click marketing or whatever. You might get some sort of viral boost there, but generally speaking, you want to have evergreen content that's going to be relevant forever, because it'll show up in the search results, and people will be searching for it 2 years from now. People can't get enough lists, so it's annoying if you know about it, but it's also likely that you click on it a lot. So like 9 ways to get in shape for summer or whatever. Use odd numbers for whatever reason. Psychologically, we like odd numbers. I don't know why. It works better. Collect emails and send them new content. So a guy named Neil Patel he tries to get everyone's email address, because you get 20,000 people, and then you say, hey list, I just published a new post about 10 ways to shape up for summer. I'm trying to shape up for summer, I don't know if you guys can tell. Black is slimming. But you send them the new content. Email will be a huge driver, because they're sort of your 1,000 true fans, so to speak. They love everything that you do. They retweet everything that you say. They're in love with you. You want an asset like that. You want to have a list of people that you can kind of reach out to. Interview people who be influential to you. So you're doing that Twitter research from the beginning, and you're identifying these influencers that have huge readership, and they have high page rank, and they have a lot of Twitter followers, etc. Reach out to them and offer to interview them, or build a big list of the top 25 best people who know how to shape up for summer, or whatever. They love the ego boost. They're likely to give you the interview, even if you're nobody. Not all of them will, but a lot of them will. They're likely to tweet about it and to spread the word to their network once it's up and it's live. And it's super relevant to your audience. These are people that they aspire to be like. So that's great. Google likes longer content. So like a 300-word post versus a 3,000-word post. Google likes the 3,000-word post. It's more authoritative. It's more in-depth. It's more detailed. Et cetera, et cetera. Google likes that. A lot of people call it cornerstone content. Do lots of guest posting. So a good ratio is, for every blog post you write on your site, write 2 guest posts. Again, you want to target blogs that have high readership, that have good page rank, et cetera. People love infographics. It's starting to get a little bit tired, but people still like it. A lot of times they'll they'll grab it and put it on their site and link to you. It can be a really great way to get a lot of inbound links. The design quality needs to be really high. You can job it out through like an Odesk or something like that. And always include something for people to do when they finish reading. So you can suggest other posts. You can include a call to action. That's useful because people got value out of it. They're likely to maybe take a step. They might tweet about it or whatever. They might sign up for your service because they got value out of it. If you ask them, if you don't have the product yet, you can send them to other articles that are relevant on your blog that'll get them to. It'll reduce your bounce rate, for example. So you get people come to you from a search result, they read that article, and they bail, versus they come to your search result, they read the article, and they continue on. Google likes that. So that's content marketing. We're getting faster. PR in 90 seconds. Okay, PR is super useful. It's a great way to, most content is online now. PR lead times are like 24 hours to 40 hours. They need tons of content because these online publications, they're all competing with each other to kind of build a big online presence, and so they have to create tons and tons and tons of content, and these journalists need lots and lots of stories. So they'll want to talk to you. You just got to basically not piss them off and respect them, and respect their time, and respect how they work. Target individual writers, not whole publications. So find the writer. An individual writer likely has a particular beat or focus that they emphasize. Do your homework on that. See like the last 20 posts that they wrote, and try to kind of find out what their angles are. You can start with small blogs. So TechCrunch, you can potentially, it's actually easier than you think to get on TechCrunch, but there's nothing wrong with kind of going a little bit lower and kind of working your way up and kind of building a groundswell that way. Be brief with your pitch. Don't send a 1,000-word email. You can pitch people over Twitter even, and people will reply to that. Again, it's all about sort of respecting their time. They're not going to read 1,000 words. They'll read 2 or 3 sentences, and if you're compelling, they might be interested. The biggest thing is giving them a good story. They write about stories. They don't write about product features. So give them a compelling pitch or an angle. Dig your well before you're thirsty. So start trying to cultivate these relationships before you have anything to get to do for them. So meet them at networking events. Send them interesting links to other articles that have nothing to do with you. Send them stuff about your competitors even. If you have a reputation for getting them good stories, or if they know that you give them good stories, that's useful. Have 1 to 3 key points you want to get across. Once they're talking to you, they're going to go off in all these different directions. They have an agenda that's not necessarily yours. Try to stick to your agenda. You want to have them maximize the likelihood that they write about what you want them to write about. And then follow up immediately. Send them any sort of supporting material that will help them and make their lives easier. Great. You probably shouldn't do AdWords. AdWords, cost per click has gone up a lot in the last 5 years. So it's really, really hard to make it worth it. If you do it, though, and you want to ignore me on that, you can. AdWords is useful for doing limited tests, like I was saying, testing positioning, testing new product feature, positioning, all those kinds of things. It's just not necessarily scalable for a lot of companies. If you do, again, pay attention to conversion, not just click-through. Those numbers are often different. Use so they have different ways that you can serve up ads. You can do broad match, which is basically, if it's even kind of remotely relevant, it's going to show up. Versus like exact match, it has to be the exact phrase that you give them. So if you start with broad match, it'll let you see kind of the kinds of things that people are actually searching for and what's showing up, and then you can kind of narrow down. Negative keywords, this is kind of the most, this is the easiest way to increase quality score. So Google, the position that they show in the side of your AdWords, you know what, do we know what AdWords is? Okay, so it's the paid ads that are on the right-hand side. The position isn't just determined by how much you pay. They take into consideration what they call quality score, which is a function of like bounce rate. It's a function of, basically they want to have ads that you're going to give them a bunch of money for, but they also want them to be ads that are relevant, that people actually stay on and buy and all those kinds of things, because you're going to be the advertiser that's less likely to stop doing AdWords with them. So a great way to do that is to use negative keywords. So if you're a premium priced product, you say let's say you sell fancy designer jeans, you don't want people to come to you for free designer jeans, right? So you use free as a negative keyword, and then you will not show up if anybody types in free designer jeans. Does that make sense? They have a structure to campaigns. So you have a campaign, and your campaign has what are called ad groupings, and those ad groupings are supposed to group keywords that are related to each other that are going to be served the same ad. A good way to raise your quality score, if you're not doing like 50,000 keywords, is just to have ad groupings for each individual keyword and have that ad be just matching that. It's more time consuming, but your quality score will be a lot higher. Make sure you match your ads to relevant landing pages. So you don't want to necessarily send them to your home page. You want to send them to a landing page that's specific to the keywords that you are paying for. Kill off anything that has less than 2% click-through rate. You got to monitor this stuff daily, because otherwise you can spend a whole lot of money really fast and just kind of blow through your budget. And then always be running variations. You always want to kind of be tweaking your ad and making it better. Facebook ads. Facebook ads are more of a like a impression or brand building tactic. It's not great for conversion, at least in my experience, but it can be good for testing things. The biggest thing is images. Test 50 different images. That's gonna be what influences click-through rate the most. You can test different orientations. Like if we found that for whatever reason, women that are looking to the left, generally speaking, for us work really well. I don't know why, but that just is what it is. Test color and shape of borders. You want to try to draw someone's eye. You can use country targeting. So using Facebook ads in the United States costs a lot more than it does in Canada or New Zealand or whatever. So if you have other English-speaking countries, you can test out positioning and those sorts of things elsewhere and save a lot of money. And then focus on, again, conversion. That's kind of consistent across the board. A couple of other quick tricks. If you have something that's a widget that could be embedded on someone's site, include a plain text link on the bottom, because then you get a bunch of inbound links from lots and lots of other sites. So Give Forward, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They do medical fundraisers here in town. They have a little widget that you can embed on your blog or whatever that links back to them, but the link is plain text. Vimeo used that as well to get a lot of search engine love. And then this is more technical stuff, but you can leverage large existing networks and try to kind of piggyback off of their success. Facebook is a great example of that. Airbnb, the way that they grew was they basically hacked Craigslist. They figured out a way, Craigslist didn't have an API, but they figured out a way to auto-post their stuff into Craigslist through and navigate through their three-step form. You need to have someone that's kind of technical to do that, but they built their entire business off of that. And Craigslist shut them down, but they were already successful at that point. Okay, activation. We've got to speed up here. Landing page optimization. Someone comes to your site, what do we do now? Biggest thing is headlines. Test like crazy. You're going to focus 80% of your energy on your headline. Next important is have a big image or a video that's relevant to the product. If it's an image, you want to show, again, you can use women that are looking at your call to action, draws their eye. Ideally, maybe it's a photo of them actually using your service or the product in some way. Explainer videos work really well. Dropbox use that to great effect. They're a lot more ubiquitous now, and so it's maybe a little bit less effective, but test it and see. Have a big compelling call to action, big button. Buttons convert better than links. Put it above the fold, so you don't want to have to scroll to get to the button. Test the call to action, the words that you use, so like get started versus create my account versus whatever else you want to do. Use benefit statements, not features. Again, so it's not, you're not selling the drill, you're selling the hole that the drill makes. Include social proof, so if you've been written up places, that can be helpful. Happy customers can be helpful. If you have a high price point and it's hard to get them to convert, a good idea is to have secondary conversion steps. So like give me your email address and now I have permission to follow up with you or to educate you more about my product over time. Simplify. So I have a buddy out in New York that runs a fashion site called Lookcraft. He optimized his page and got it up to 50% homepage to email conversion, but basically removing everything. So he's got like a benefit statement and a really simple form. 50% of people that come to his homepage give his email address, which is crazy. We found one with one of our clients, a fashion app, that we got it from 4% to 24%, so that's pretty good, by removing stuff. And then detect the source of the click. So if someone is reading their Facebook feed and they see a link to you and they click on it within their mobile phone, take them to the App Store. Don't take them to your website. If they're on the web, take them there. If it's on Android, take them to the Android marketplace, et cetera, et cetera. Optimizing sign up. So they clicked on that, they want to sign up. Reinforce the benefits of why, remind them why they are so interested. People have a really bad short-term memory. Simplify your form. Don't ask for more information than you need. Try to remove as much as possible. Almost always your conversion will go up. You can always ask for more information later if it's relevant to the user experience. Have fewer pricing options rather than more. Default to less. It's less confusing. Have errors happen in line. So if I type in a username and that username's not available, don't have me fill out your whole form and submit it and then say, oh, your username's not available. Tell me right away. Offer social sign-up, so like Facebook Connect. If you have the faces next to Facebook Connect, and I see like 6 of my friends are using it, conversion goes up. A good trick is to let them start using the product. So you can jump, I think Genie, the genealogy site, for example, when they started, they had like, who's your mom, who's your dad? And they had you starting build your tree, and then once you kind of put that stuff in there and you wanted to save your work, then they had you create an account. And then sometimes you're going to be losing people, so implement live chat. Try to find out why they might be leaving or intervene, especially if you have a high price point. Address their concerns, and then take note of the objections that you're getting and all that kind of thing, and figure out how if you're getting consistent ones, tweak your pages to address those concerns through the copy. Email conversion. Provide an offer, get emails, white papers, guides, ebooks, that kind of thing. Learn what the window is when people are most likely to convert. So University of Phoenix figured out that if you call them in the middle of the night and you want to go to University of Phoenix, you're going to make that decision basically within 48 hours. And so they hound you like crazy. They call you within 5 minutes if you fill out that form, and they call you over those 48 or 72 hours or whatever it was, because they know that after that time you're basically gone. So figure out what that it looks like for you, and if do it via email or do it whatever. Add a call to action every email. A/B test every email. So you have a list of 1,000 names. Send out 2 versions of the email to 30 people each. See which one clicks better, and then send the winner out to your whole list. Auto-triggered emails. So let's say you have an intake funnel that's three steps, for example, and people bail on step 2. Send out an automatic email that's specific to the people that bailed in step 2 and try to get them to re-engage. If someone added something to your cart and bailed, send them an email and say, hey, we noticed you didn't finish your cart. Come back in, here's a discount or whatever. And then onboarding. Onboarding is basically, I've signed up, I want to have a really great first-time experience. Provide them a simple walkthrough, acclimate them to the product, this is how it works, this is what you can do. You can use videos for that, you can use images that show screenshots with like little call-outs that say this is what this is for, this is what this is for, etc. You can have your demo actually help them create the content. So Basecamp is a project management tool, and it'll basically show you an example project and kind of get you familiar with it that way, and then you can lead it when you're done. Gamification, so LinkedIn, gamification isn't badges necessarily, and all that kind of stuff and points and things. LinkedIn's like progress bar has been a really effective tactic for them when you first sign up. Here are the three things to do next. And they kind of walk you through it and have you do each one of those things, and they show you your progress bar, and you're like, yay, I'm at 60% now. Only, 8 more things to go. Pinterest. If you connect with Facebook, Pinterest auto follows your friends. So you don't necessarily have to have them go and ask their friends. You can do it kind of for them. So if your friends, if 5 of my friends are already a part of this service when I sign up, auto follow them and auto create that relationship. If it's a user-generated content site, have it auto-follow some influential people, or at least give them suggestions of influential people that you think they might be interested in. To sort of get over where you sign up and they're like, hey, welcome, and then they have just a big blank screen and they don't necessarily know what to do next. Early on, don't worry about a whole bunch of stuff about moderation and spamming and putting in CAPTCHAs and stuff like that, because that represents friction for your users that actually are real. You can always address that stuff later and clean that stuff out, but you want to make it as easy as possible for people to get started and get going right away. Social in 90 seconds. Why is this here? We're going to skip it. All right, retention. So in order to track retention accurately, you need to bucket. Ideally, you're iterating on your product and you're releasing new stuff or refining your product every couple of weeks. It's hard to track retention unless you segment your users into cohorts. And what cohorts are, basically, it's the people who signed up for my service last week versus the people that signed up for my service the week prior, or by sprint, or whatever it is you want to call it. And what that lets you see is, okay, we pushed out a new feature this week. Let's see how that impacts the user behavior for those people that are now signing up, and see if there's a difference relative to previous. You want to get users to that aha moment as fast as possible. That's basically the point at which it's likely that they're going to become long-term users for you. So Facebook figured out that if you have 10 friends within the first week, it's likely that you're going to stick around. Twitter figured out that if you can follow 30 people, it's likely you're going to stick around. Figure out what that is for you, and then basically optimize the entire onboarding process around that, and try to make it as likely as possible that that happens. Your best tool for retention by far is going to be email. A lot of people overlook this. These are product emails. So, hey, someone just accepted your connection on LinkedIn, or someone just endorsed you on LinkedIn, or you've been ousted as the mayor, or whatever. 9 times out of 10 people click on those things. So that is by far your best tactic for getting people back into your site. If you're a mobile app, notifications, basically the same deal. Contact your first customers. Actually, do this forever. Send a personal email from the CEO with their cell phone number and say, hey, if you have any suggestions for how we can make it better, let me know. Make it look like it's from a human being. So don't put it in your fancy email template. Have it look like an actual email that you would have sent from Gmail or whatever. Create easy ways to turn content consumers into creators. So generally speaking, for user-generated content sites, 90% of the people that sign up for your site are going to just be browsing. They're going to be reading information. So on Quora, for example, most people don't ever answer a question or ask a question. They just read it. But you can make it more likely by putting triggers in there. So the way that they do that, if you type in a question in a search result, or in the search bar, and nothing matches, they have an easy prompt for you to ask that question. And now it's created it, and now you're a content creator. So try to figure out ways to do that within the experience of your app to make as many people as possible actual creators of content. I mentioned earlier that Pinterest auto-follows people. They stagger it, though, which is smart. So I have 50 friends on Facebook that already use Pinterest, and I sign up. They don't just auto-follow all 50 of them right away. 3 days later, I get an email that says, hey, Craig Wardman's following you on Pinterest, and I see his puppy pictures and whatever. That relationship, he didn't do that. Pinterest did that. But they just staggered it where it looks like it's organic and it's happening naturally, and I log in. So, kind of clever. A lot of people don't realize that. If they figure it out, they might be pissed, but whatever. Make it easy for users to pressure their friends to come back in. So Path used this thing called a nudge, basically. So for inactive users, if you have a friend that hasn't logged in for a while, they had this little nudge feature where it was like, hey, ask them a question or whatever, and try to get them to re-engage. So have your friends do it versus making it look like it's from the system. So yeah, that was retention. Referral. Make heavy use of social artifacts. So basically identify every meaningful element that, or creation or sharing element that happens on your site. So someone posted a question, someone answered a question, someone liked a question, someone put a little smiley face on a question, whatever. And push that stuff out through Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. Facebook is good about, they're continuing to kind of optimize their experience to make that stuff less in your face, but it's still valuable to have, even if it's in the sidebar and it says so-and-so liked this page or so-and-so created this or whatever, having it be in the sidebar, if it's less, even though it's less effective than in your main feed, it's still better than not being in there. So, and make that the default. When someone connects on Facebook or whatever, ask for those permissions to post on their behalf, and then just do it. People are getting savvy, and they're opting out of that stuff a lot, but ask them. I mean, they might not object to it. Don't assume that they're going to be offended. Bake virality into your product. The biggest example, of course, is Hotmail. They basically put a little thing at the bottom of every email when they launched that said, P.S. I love you, hit your free email address on Hotmail. A lot of people do that now, but at the time it was really novel, and they were sort of the first big example of viral marketing online. Basically, every time someone used their product, they were introducing new people to the service. So try to figure out how you can do that. Make it painless for users who create new content to spread the word. So a way around that, I just liked the auto-posting thing. A way to get it actually in my feed is if you have them share via Facebook or whatever. And it actually shows up inside of their feed. It's opt-in, but make it as easy as possible. Put it directly next to the point at which they're creating the content. If I've invited my friends in and they don't join, make it easy for me to remind them. So again, this is another cool trick that Pat used where my friend is doing it, not me. So Pat isn't harassing me, Craig Wortman's harassing me. And that's a totally different thing. When they invite people in, Path also does another cool thing where they create a personalized landing page. So you get an email or you get a text or you get a Facebook notification that says, you know, so-and-so wants you to join Path, and you click through that link and you get brought to a custom landing page, and they let you customize it with a description and with a photo and a video if you want. Kind of a cool trick. Provide incentives for referrals. So ideally ones that make the experience of your product better. You can do stuff where you're just sort of giving them, you know, get your friend to spend $25 and we give you $25 free. You can do that stuff too, and it's still effective. But ideally, things that don't cost you money or cost you much money and that make the experience using the product better are more useful. So Dropbox is a great example. Every time they get a new customer from your network, you get more space. That's a win for kind of both people. That's a pretty cool one. You can bake that into your onboarding process where you can say, okay, hey, thanks for signing up. You got 5 gigabytes of space for free. If you invite 1 friend, we'll give you 2 more. If you invite 5 friends, we'll give you 10 more, whatever. Right when they first sign up, that can be a really good tactic as well. Create a contest. So AppSumo does this a lot. They'll do these giant contests with $5,000 worth of prizes or whatever, and then you get an entry for signing up yourself, and then you share it with your network, and every time one of them join, you get another entry as well. That can be a good tactic.
Get a couple questions in. Can we?
Yeah. That's it.
That's perfect time.
So, the end.
That's awesome.
Like I said, it was a ton of stuff.
That's great. My head is like spinning.
Yeah.
I'm taking a page of notes, like stuff I had to do immediately upon walking out of here.
And like I said, I'll share that document with him. There's a bunch of links in there, as you saw.
That's
but
great.
any
Sean,
questions or content?
Questions for Sean?
Complaints?
You mentioned, you want to pick sites that have high volume and high, have a lot of users.
Mm-hmm.
What's a website or tool to know that information?
I mean, generally speaking, well, it depends. Was I talking about that in terms of in channel acquisition?
Mm-hmm.
So you have these super platforms like Facebook and Twitter, et cetera. Those are obviously big ones. LinkedIn is a great one where you want to make it easy for them to push artifacts into their stream. So a good example is SlideShare. It's a slide sharing site. They make it really easy for you to drop that stuff into a Twitter notification where the slideshow is actually embedded into the Twitter stream or in their Facebook feed or in their LinkedIn feed or whatever. There's really like 5 or 6 major networks, but there are still also smaller ones that are relevant to your audience, and the answer there really is just to look around for them and search for them. Airbnb figured out that Craigslist was super relevant to them, but that was because there's tons of people on Craigslist that are searching for apartments. So they figured that out kind of just by thinking about it. So there's not really, it really depends on what your service is once you get past those 5 or 6 major networks. But certainly LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest now. Quora is a great one because Quora is actually really great because there's content being created constantly that's very high quality around basically any topic. And so if you want to get kind of established as a thought leader that way, you can answer questions. Lots of people are searching for them on a consistent basis. Quora's better at SEO than you are, so their stuff is going to rank. But it's cool to have your face there and the link to your site. So that would be a good example.
What are your thoughts on Microsoft's anti-Google campaign? It seems like they want to go back to no one's going to read your email, no one's going to use your information. We're now going to customize the advertising you're going to see. That seems like a step back, but
I don't think most people care. anymore. I mean, like I said, we're all narcissists anymore, and Facebook, I mean, the kinds of things that we share with each other anymore online, it's sort of, I just don't think people actually care that much. And most people haven't been, I don't think most people think that Google is going to do something to ruin your life. It's more likely that like some random 18-year-old kid that's part of Anonymous or whatever is going to ruin your life. So I don't think people care that much about these big services. I don't know. I mean, every time Facebook changes their privacy policy, a whole bunch of people get mad for like a week, and then they're like, oh, well, I'm going to still use it. You know, so it's like they get mad, but they're not mad enough to quit. Some people are, but those people I think are the exception. So I wouldn't worry too much about it.
How are you scheduling, like, building all this content during, like, the day? Like, it seems like it's a lot of, like, are you, like, pre-scheduling or, like, pulling out, you know, you have 5 days where you're just writing articles?
It depends on bandwidth. So with like I said, we used to do only development, and so we were sort of an agilist shop, and we had organized ourselves into sprints. And the way agile development works is you basically say we have a 2-week sprint, and we have X number of points, and points are an estimation of level of effort. And you say, okay, we have 3 people that are full-time working on this project, therefore we have 30 points of development. And that's an arbitrary sort of number, but it actually can be really effective for estimation. And then you just sort of say, here are the things that we want to build, and once you hit 30 points, the other stuff kind of goes down to the next bucket. We started doing the same thing as it related to growth. We said, okay, you know, you have 1.5 people that are on this account, and they have X number of time that they're devoted to this project as a function. In our case, it's a function of budget for our clients, but we said, okay, we have 30 points. Writing a guest post somewhere takes 5 points or whatever it is, and then we just schedule that stuff based on that. In a lot of cases, we also decide between things that we should be doing ongoing and things that are sort of more one-off. Things that are ongoing are things like Twitter outreach, the guest posting stuff you should always be doing. And so you can set a goal. You know, if you're just a small team, you can say, all right, I want to write 1 guest post and 1 blog post each week. I want to reach out to or try to get 10 people to sign up for our email list or our site if it's if it's free. It's easier to do through Twitter and through these board posts and all those kinds of things. And maybe that's all you do for now. And then maybe you tackle one of those one-off projects where it's like, okay, let's test what happens if we have a modal that pops up on the home page asking for email versus not. Does that increase registration? Or, you know, like run those sorts of one-off experiments. Maybe you pick 1 or 2 of those. And again, it's just based on bandwidth. Does that make sense?
Do you have any texts or books that you would recommend?
This stuff is changing so fast. My course at Northwestern, we don't have a textbook. So I'm basically giving people links to stuff because this stuff is happening faster than people are
Which
learning.
links would you recommend?
They're all in this document. Yeah, that there's 50 of them in there. That'll get you a long way there. Kissmetrics, their blog. If I had to recommend one site, the Kissmetrics blog is really great. They have these guides about how to market on Reddit or how to market on Twitter.
On what?
Kissmetrics. Super, super useful.
Folks, we got to wrap up. I want to say also, you have to hit this site. I was meeting yesterday with my digital marketing person, who Sean knows, and I was lamenting the fact that we were both saying to each other, we've got to just keep reading and rereading his actual posts. His blog posts are incredibly successful. You get a ton of traffic, and Sean has a really cool way of writing a blog post. And so you got to hit the site. If it's okay with you, we will get your deck. I'll provide the deck that Sean just shared with us, because obviously there's a ton of stuff. Thank you so much.
And if you ever want to email me or you have additional questions or whatever, it's just Sean at digintent, digintent.com. Digintent. I don't know where we did that, but
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I've learned so much from Sean. It's fun because one of the first things on his one of the first things on one of your first slides, and now I'm blanking what the phrasing was. It was there are many micro optimizations. You were quoting somebody,
yeah.
And it's funny because I usually, we don't in quarters past. I haven't had the benefit of having Sean here, But the tool for today, we add a tool every week, Sean, to our Entrepreneur's Toolkit.
Yeah.
The tool for today will sound really familiar after you just saw this guy speak. But I usually tell you the tool after we do the digital innovations case, which of course we didn't do because we got the benefit of having Sean. But it's that business is not one big problem. Business is 1,000 little problems. And I think it's an interesting sort of frame by which to view entrepreneurship. Because you just heard one of the experts on all this stuff, and he's saying, you know what, there's 1,000 things you can do, right? And obviously you only have 22.5 hours in the day because you got to sleep an hour and a half. But there's a lot of stuff that you have to do. So our sixth tool for the course is 1,000. Whoops, I misspelled little. 1,000 little things. It's 1,000 little problems, right? And again, I'll bring this up again next week in the context of digital intent, or digital innovations rather, that case on DI. But you just got to see a huge list of things that we have to do, but they underpin acquisition, they underpin user experience, which of course is relevant to everybody sitting in this room.
Real quick, if you want to try to prioritize that stuff, if you visualize your funnel this way, where you've got, and Kissmetrics' tool actually is really good at this. If you visualize, here's acquisition, so visitors, signups to free, returning users, paid users. You can sometimes see where a big bottleneck is. So if you have, for every 100 people that visit your site, only one person signs up, you probably have a bottleneck on your activation part of your funnel. So that's where you should focus your effort. So that's one way of thinking about it, because it is a lot to kind of digest. But a lot of your wins can be inside of here, because it doesn't cost much money. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit there that's being neglected. And it's cheap and fast to implement, and it's a lot easier than doubling the traffic at the top of your funnel. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we'll let you go. Last thing to say is I'm going to hand out Yorko number 5, right? So Yorko number 5 is right here. Grab it as you walk out. I'm going to hand out your